everyone, it's Sally with the Polka Dot Life. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the United States. If you watched my video on Friday, then you will know what's coming today. We are going to get a little bit messy and I'm kind of excited about it. I am playing with a couple different mediums that I've never played with before, so it has been really fun and exciting. And I hope that you enjoy seeing how to work with them as well. Just because they are new and a little bit messy doesn't mean it's difficult. It just means a few extra steps. But it can take your card from being nice to super amazing in no time. Join me at the craft desk and let's get started. I have just had the best time playing with the products in the Gingerbread and Peppermint Suite. Probably see I have stuff all over my hands and my nails need to be done, but I was kind of waiting until I got done playing with all of this fun stuff. If you want to open up your holiday catalog, it's on pages 8 and 9, and actually even onto page 10 if you want to get a closer look at the bundle. So on Friday's video, we played with the Memories and More cards and envelopes and the Memories and More card pack. And that was a lot of fun. Now we did use some of the other products as well. And today we are going to be using a mixture of everything else except these two items. We will do these on a later video. These I did purchase, but I'm going to tell you I don't love them. I think that they are too rigid and too hard for mailing. I just don't see your cards arriving in great condition like we would expect them to. But we're going to be using some of the DSP, cardstock, the ribbons, some other little embellishments. But right here is the star of the show of what we are using today is the adorning masks. And then we are also going to play with something from the annual catalog, and that is Shimmery Crystal Effects. We are going to be using real red for our card today, and I have a piece, I think it's, I don't know if I did 4, it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, because I'm going to cut it down, but I feel that when you're working with the embossing paste, it's kind of nice to do it a little bit larger than you intend to and then cut it down. We are going to be using the snowflake mask today, and I've used this, and I've used it this side and this side. I guess there's probably a correct side. I'd say this is the back side. Actually, it's a little flatter, but I have cleaned it really well in hot soapy water, and I had an old toothbrush that I used to clean it as well. There's just a little bit of residual, evidently, that I didn't see, that I missed, but you want to go ahead before you even get started and fill a sink with some warm to hot soapy water, or have a bowl of that right within your reach. You cannot set this aside and clean it up later. It just won't end well for you. So I'm going to kind of just lay this on here as I want it, and I kind of want it this way. I want these bigger snowflakes over here, and I found that I don't like the very edge. I don't like to catch that very edge with the embossing paste. I like to let the design go over. Of course, like I say, we're going to be probably peeling that away or cutting that away, but I just want to bring that to your attention. I also have another little tip. When I did my first card, the reason I kind of came up with that layout was I kind of needed to hide some things, because upon further inspection, I found out that some of these little places were not popped out of my stencil. They were stamped in during the manufacturing process, but just a few little pieces hadn't got popped out, so I was missing like an arm here or there off of a snowflake. So do yourself a favor and just take a look over your masks before you start to see if you have anything that you need to take care of. We also have our blue tape. Everybody's got to love some blue painter's tape in the craft room. Here's how your embossing paste is going to come. The Shimmery embossing paste has been on back order, so mine is the regular, like the matte finish, but I'm really okay with it. If I wanted to add some sparkle, all I need to do is break out my Wink of Stella. It probably wouldn't be as shimmery, but it will get the job done. I keep mine in that plastic bag. I also have kept this little foam piece that comes inside this lid. And I've also kept this foil piece on here to just help keep that moistened. And you can see I have used quite a bit. Now, I usually put my paste cleared, when I put it away, I try to like stir it and keep it all down in the bottom here. But I guess that this morning I just forgot to do that. But you want to load up your palette knife. Now, I'm pretty inexperienced at this as well. I have found a few things. You want to always go in the same direction as you're finishing this off. You might put it on in a couple different directions, but you want to finish it all one way. You also don't want to press down super heavy because it didn't happen to me, but I could see that it could go underneath your stencil, and we don't want that to happen either. I think I teetered on the border of, my first one was just right as far as thickness goes, but my second one, I think I put it on a little bit too thick. I like it on thick, but I might have done it just a little bit too thick. So you of course want to protect your work surface, which we have put a piece of our grid paper down. That is just one of the nicest tools for your craft room. It just makes things happy. And I used the colored one today just so I could kind of see my real red paper under here just a little bit better. And I find that I kind of like this one of our palette knives the best. They come in a set of 3. But I think that they all probably do a little bit different of a job. And maybe I just haven't been in the situation to prefer one of the other ones yet. But they work just fine because I used them all, and I used different ones just so I could keep them clean and keep them from getting hard. Like, I can still see glimpses of red over here, and I don't want that. But like I say, I don't want it so thick that, I mean, like, I don't want to take a day and a half for it to dry. And you can just put the excess back in your container, and we'll see. I thinned it out from what I was doing earlier. I might find that it's a little bit too thin. I do know that I don't want that line going right down through one of my main images. You just kind of want to look at things at how they, just kind of like you would frost a cake. If you see a certain place that you just really don't like, then just kind of go back over it. I don't know, that seems just a little thin there to me. And it's not like you don't have time to work with it, because you do. You just don't want to take all day about it. And over on this side, I'm not worrying quite as much, because our card design is going to cover over a little bit. And you'll find that if you have something really that you don't love, you can usually cover it up with a gem or a piece of designer series paper or a number of those things. But I just want to get this, especially since there's not a lot left in my container. Granted, I will probably come back in and play with it here very soon. but I want to kind of get that in there as much as I can. And you're always going to lose a little bit. That's just the way it is. Okay, I've taken the time to put it back in this bag and zip it shut. And I have my knife. I'm just going to temporarily lay there because, like I say, we have got to clean this up on the ready. And then I'm just going to pick this up. And you have to kind of just maybe take a fingernail and hold the corner down while you lift this back. And isn't that just beautiful on that red cardstock? Now I see I have a little line there. I'm not going to get excited about it. We can turn it from the way I originally planned to do it, or we can just see how it's going to dry. I'm going to just lay this aside where it's going to be undisturbed for a little bit. I am going to go and clean my mess up and let that dry for a minute, and I will meet you back here to make my card. We have another little, sort of messy. It's not really messy, not compared to the other, not compared to the embossing paste. But this is from the annual catalog, and this is called Shimmery Crystal Effects. And it's kind of like a clear acrylic coating, and this has some sparkle to it. And I've cut out one of the gumdrops. Now, we're not using this actual shape, but I wanted to show you. Okay, so this is coming out. That's what it comes out like. I am going to show you. You want to make sure it's all covered. And I've used a lot of this in the last few days, so I'm having to let it run. I should have turned it upside down, and I forgot to do that. So there, now it's flowing. I want to make sure that it's clear out. It's going to kind of shrink in a little bit. I want to make sure that it's out to the edge of the color. And this is going to take this little piece of candy and make it glossy like it's in a wrapper. And it will, if you have like a little area there, like where it lifts, it's going to smooth out. And I'm just going to take and rub the corner of that on my silicone mat. When this is all dry, it will be fine. And I kind of even want to look at that just a little tiny bit, just to make sure that I have not left any big open areas. Okay, again, clean off the tip there. When that dries, I'll be able to get that right off of that silicone craft sheet. But I've gotten quite a few things out of here. It's really kind of hard to tell because of the label, how much is in it. You can just kind of tell by how much when you squeeze whether you have a lot left or not. If you are in a more humid area like where I live, this is probably going to take overnight to dry at least. I found with mine that like if I did it early in the afternoon, then by the morning, definitely for sure, it was all set up and cured. We are going to be using something with those crystally effects, but just a different piece that's already done and cured. We are going to use a basic white thick cardstock today, or for our base. Just our normal size. Of course, I will have the measurements for you on my blog post. I hope that you enjoyed those memories and more cards that we did together the other day. I'm going to show you, I had done one before off camera, before I even started filming, and so it had dried overnight. I did this way too thick. It's kind of cool, but yet you can just tell it's gloppy, it's messy. What we did today on camera is much, much better. But it is really just striking on this red cardstock. I do have to say so myself. But this is the one that we did together today, and this is so, so much better. I'm going to bring in my trimmer. I feel like this is cured enough that like we're not going to flake it off, or it's not going to, our gate isn't going to squish into it. We are definitely going to do this for the 4-inch side, so I don't have to cut much off of it. You do want to go down and back. It cuts, you kind of just have to entice it a little bit sometimes. I should have done another pass at that even. So since it's not detached, I can line that up and do that pretty well. There, that made all the difference. You can keep this for a little inside decoration if you like. I think we'll cut this end off to make our, and then we will cut it this way for our 5 1/4. I would say that this has dried about an hour. Our card is pretty straightforward. We are going to take our liquid glue, especially since we have this, it's not super heavy, but just a little heavier element on the front. Just to have a little wiggle room and kind of just to suck those sides in, you know, nice and tight on this card. And I'd used my mask the other way, so I should have turned my piece of paper to make it exactly like my example, but I'm fine with changing it up a little bit too. And I think since I didn't turn that the right way, I think we are going to do a very similar, but we'll just do a landscape version. Here is the element that I used. I just cut this strip off of Designer Series paper, and you probably can't see it real well, but this, on these pieces of candy, here are some tips that I learned the first go round, and we're gonna make it better this go round. When I use these shimmery crystal effects on this DSP, it takes it fine, but it does kind of wrinkle, not really wrinkle, but it just kind of warps your DSP because it's not very thick. If you were using this on regular cardstock, it wouldn't be an issue. So I went ahead and I made a strip, and I did make it a little bit thinner, and I put this strip on the other strip of DSP, just like here. Except this time, I have cheated and I made a cardstock piece to go underneath it first. And I just made it a little shorter and a little skinnier so I didn't have to worry about it sticking out. But this just kind of draws it in, and it just gives it a little bit more of substance to stand on top of this embossing paste. So I want to take this piece. I'm kind of happy about this. I'm excited to do a landscape card. And just try something similar, but the same. Because I think that there are only happy accidents in the craft room. Well, that's after the initial bout of tears. Anyway, I am going to just put this a little bit here on the lower side with this raised candy edge toward the bottom. And I'm just going to look and make sure it looks pretty straight and that kind of thing. I can already tell you that adding that cardstock behind here made a really big difference. And just had this scrap, and I used my other for my other example. So we will use this end for sending you peppermint kisses. We are going to take our tailored tag punch and just get things lined up and punch that out. I love a nice punch. I bought this Playing with Pets, and I believe it is still available in the red, and I'm running out of it. It was a good choice for this. It is flat, and that's kind of what I wanted. Kind of want to see, doing it this way gives me a little more leeway of where I want to put this. I'm going to pull off some Scotch tape, and we are just kind of going to make a little faux bow situation. And I'm just kind of figuring out and we'll give ourselves a little bit extra. I would rather have too much than not enough. I know it seems wasteful. I try to keep it if they're large enough of scraps so that I can repurpose it, use it for knots or like just a little running piece behind an element if I can use it that way. Sometimes it challenges me to use it in a different way. And let's got a little piece sticking out. Let's scooch that back or trim it off, whatever your preference is. I am going to make that there. And I also like this one because the wrong side looks pretty much like the right side, and you don't really have to fool with that. And you can make it look like an actual bow. You can make it look like a back and forth. Just kind of seeing too, with me changing directions. I don't want it to go super big. I have a little less real estate to work with here than I did with it going the other way. Because I put this lower, let's see how this looks. So I'm just going to take my ribbon scissors and just cut my tail at a little bit of an angle. And I might just need to come back one more stitch mark and do that trim again. And we can kind of work with where we put this as well. Let's grab some dimensionals. You can even catch a little bit of that ribbon. If you don't like to use Scotch tape, some people just like to use this to adhere their ribbon down with. If you're comfortable with that, I am cool with that. And since I do have a lot going on this card, just to make sure they're adhered down really well, rather than just trust the adhesive on this, I'm putting a little glue there. And I'm going to kind of put it right in this area. Maybe come down about to the bottom of that first row of these little peppermint pinwheels. And I may trim that off. I might just leave it be a little bit long. So that is super fun. Now, I also have some of these other little candies that I've done with the Shimmery crystal effects. And I think we'll just put them right here. I guess I'll put the glue on here. Just on the center of our snowflakes. They just add a little sparkle. I just thought that the red and the white seemed pretty and pepperminty. And like I say, I don't know, I can't really speak to the properties of how these hold super well, or like how long it takes it to dry before you can move them around a lot. I would say that these are pretty secured down, just about the same as anything else that we glue down. You could also take some of our gems and put in the center of these other ones if you would care to, just to give it a little bit of an extra sparkle or bling. Do we want to do that? That might just be a little bit too much over the top. The only reason I thought, well, I've got that little flaw there, but you know what? If I don't show anyone that, they're never going to see that. So I could have placed one of these other ones down here, but I just thought that it was really nice with these being across in the row. Now, I had the inside of my card already done, but I'm going to have to save this for another card, and I'll do another one in landscape for the inside of this one. Here is the original that I did, and you can see how I did the inside of the card. But they both are fun, both versions. I like both of them. But see, you'll be able to see, this is adhered down. It's just not as crisp and sharp looking. it's still a little buckly. I may have to get my small nozzle glue and put just a little bit underneath there in a couple places to get that flattened out. This does the trick. This is good, it's solid, and it is perfectly flat. And I like that so much better. But we live and we learn as we go on and craft, just the same as we do anything else. I have a few other versions. This one says Happy Holidays. I used one of the other masks and just used one of our tags, and I embossed it. And before I put these little cookies down, or little cutouts from our DSP, and I just used this little design on the inside. I didn't even put another greeting. It just says Happy Holidays. Now on these ones, I didn't do any masking or using embossing paste or anything. These I just used things from the suite. And this is an embossing folder, the stars, and I forget what it's called. And it should be, I think it's retiring, so it should be on that clearance sale. And then I just did the inside with this lovely little gingerbread and these peppermints here. And these I just used the red rhinestones, and those are super sweet. These came together. I just used up some scraps that I had, and I thought that these were really cute too, especially when you do an envelope. It just really makes a nice presentation. And then I also have this last one that is a gift card holder, and it also was more on the peppermint side of life. I could have taken that Crystal Effects and put on here as well. I just did the masking on this one, and it says sending you peppermint kisses, and I put some of the, oh, I can't even think of what these ones are called, but they're kind of clear with a little sparkle in them, so they end up kind of looking like those Crystal Effects ones do. But you just open it up and you have a little gift card holder right here, and it says wishing you a Merry Christmas. And I just have some of that red ribbon, that ruffled ribbon. It needs a little love there. But I thought that was super fun too. So today we took a little look on how to just use our supplies traditionally for these cards. But then for these ones, we did jump in and do a little bit more of a messy technique or two. And I think that it is just super, super worth it. I love this red and white together. I like this together too. These are just smaller images, so you don't see it as much as these ones. It's just a fun thing to do. I wouldn't probably do it all the time. Christmas calls for something special, I think, and this just might be it. Please drop me a comment below and let me know if you have used the Shimmery Crystal Effects or the embossing paste and masks yet. I found it to be a lot of fun and really enjoyable. As always, remember to be kind, send a card, and do something creative. Bye-bye.